Welcome back, listeners. We're diving into some seriously deep waters this time.
Deep waters, indeed.
We're tackling René Descartes.
Ah, Descartes.
Now, you might be thinking...
17th century, right?
Exactly. A long time ago.
What could he possibly have to say?
That matters to us now.
Well, get this.
What?
Descartes grappled with questions
Oh, yeah.
that are still so relevant.
Like what?
Like, how can we be certain of anything?
Especially in
all this information coming at us,
Forwardly.
fake news.
This information.
It's overwhelming. So back to Descartes.
Right. He was living in a time...
Like ours.
You could say that.
Oh.
Huge intellectual shifts happening.
So what was he trying to do?
He wanted to find a solid foundation.
For knowledge.
Yes. Something you could build on.
Okay.
Without fear of it collapsing.
I like that.
He used...
What's that thing called?
Systematic doubt.
Yeah, systematic doubt.
To strip away all assumptions.
All of them?
To see what remained, what we could be absolutely sure of.
Precisely. And that led him to...
The famous cogito.
You got it.
I think, therefore I am.
Exactly. But even I have to admit, sometimes it's like...
It's philosophy 101,
Yeah.
but I don't always...
Get it.
Yeah, fully grasp it.
Well, let me put it this way.
Okay.
Think about it like this.
Wait.
Even if you doubt everything else,
Everything.
you can't doubt
What?
that you're doubting.
Interesting.
The act of doubting itself
Oh.
proves you exist.
So even if I'm like
Yeah.
in a simulation,
Oh, I like that.
if I'm experiencing...
Exactly.
There's a me.
There you go. It's a powerful starting point.
But that's just the beginning, right?
Right. Knowing you exist isn't enough.
There's more.
You need to know you can trust
Trust what?
your reasoning about the world.
Ah, so it's not just about me.
It's about everything outside your own mind.
Okay, makes sense.
Otherwise, you're stuck.
In my own head.
Exactly. Unable to say anything.
About reality.
Right. So then Descartes asked,
What? This is getting good.
what if our senses deceive us?
Wait, what? Like, they lie to us.
He went even further, actually.
Further.
He proposed this thought experiment.
Ooh, a thought experiment.
What if there's this powerful force?
Well, what kind of force?
He called it a malicious demon.
Whoa, a demon. That sounds scary.
It's a thought experiment.
Right, of course. But still.
But think about it.
Okay.
This demon is manipulating us, feeding us false information.
So we can't trust anything.
Well, that's the question.
Okay, now I see why this is relevant.
To today.
It's like deepfakes.
Oh, yeah. Or misinformation campaigns.
Exactly. Our
They'll
senses,
totally be manipulated.
especially online.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Descartes is trying to find a way.
Out of this mess.
Exactly. To figure out.
Can we trust anything at all?
And how can we know for sure?
I'm hooked. So how does he get us out of this?
Well, this is where things get really interesting.
Ooh, I like interesting.
This is where God comes in.
God. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
It's the part that tends to...
Raise some eyebrows.
You could say that.
So tell me.
How does Descartes define truth?
I'm all ears.
So Descartes argues that if God exists,
Yeah.
and he's perfect
Okay.
and benevolent,
Benevolent meaning.
all good,
Right.
then he wouldn't deceive us.
So God's like,
The ultimate fact checker.
interesting.
He's a guarantor of truth.
Okay, but how does that work?
Well, it's not like...
God's whispering in our ears.
No.
Okay, good.
It's about how God made us
Made us how?
with the ability to reason.
Okay.
And when we use reason
Yeah.
properly,
There's that word again. Properly.
we can arrive at truth.
So God set the stage
Yeah.
and gave us the tools.
You got it.
And now it's up to us.
Exactly. To use them the right way.
Okay, I'm following.
And the key is focusing on
What did he call them?
clear and distinct perceptions.
Clear and distinct.
Exactly.
What does that even mean?
Think of a simple math equation.
Like 2 + 2 = 4.
Perfect example.
Okay.
It's self-evidently true.
No arguing with that.
Exactly. That's what Descartes means.
By clear and distinct.
Yes. There's no ambiguity.
No room for interpretation.
It just is.
Okay, makes sense.
And Descartes says God wouldn't let us.
Be wrong about those truths.
Precisely.
The foundation.
Yes, of all our knowledge.
But hold on.
Yeah.
Even if there is a God,
Okay.
couldn't we still make mistakes?
You're bringing up a common objection.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good one.
What did Descartes say about that?
He acknowledged
Hello.
we're prone to error.
We're not perfect.
Exactly. Especially when
Our passions.
get in the way.
Our passions.
Our prejudices.
So it's like...
Our feelings cloud our judgment.
Okay, I've been there.
We all have.
So we have to be careful.
We have to use reason carefully.
Avoid biases.
Yes.
Be rigorous.
Exactly. It's about method.
It's not just about...
Having a brain.
It's about using it. Yeah.
Precisely. This is where his emphasis on
What?
the proper use of reason
Right.
comes into play.
This is all very logical.
Yes.
But how did Descartes...
Prove God exists.
Yeah, that's a big assumption.
It's a huge question.
Philosophers still debate this.
For centuries.
So how did Descartes do it?
He had two main arguments.
Lay them on me.
The first is called
Yeah.
the ontological argument.
The what?
Ontological.
Okay, I'll try to remember that.
It's a bit of a head scratcher.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, God is perfect.
By definition.
Right, and existence
Yep.
is a perfection. Therefore,
Exists. You got it. It's like saying
thing what?
that a triangle
Yeah.
has to have 3 sides.
That's part of being a triangle.
Exactly. Descartes says existence
Is like that for God?
a necessary attribute.
Okay, I kind of get it.
It's a tough one.
What about the other argument?
The second one.
Yeah.
It's called the causal argument. Causal. Okay.
And this one focuses on,
Our idea of God
right, we have this concept of God.
as perfect and infinite.
Exactly, but
What?
could we have come up with that
Like on our own.
as imperfect beings?
Good point.
Descartes says no.
So where did the idea come from?
It must have been planted in us
Planted by...
by God,
He's the only one.
capable of such an idea. Like, a puddle can't create the ocean.
But the ocean can make a puddle.
Exactly. The cause has to be...
At least as great as the effect.
You got it.
Okay, I see the logic there.
So, our idea of God,
Points to God's existence.
according to Descartes...
Okay, but I've heard people criticize this.
Oh, absolutely.
What do they say?
One big criticism is
Yeah.
circular reasoning.
Like when you look up a word.
And the definition uses the same word.
Exactly. It doesn't really explain anything.
It's like using God,
To prove reason,
but then using reason,
proves God.
you're assuming the thing.
You trying to prove.
Philosophers call this...
Begging the question.
that makes sense.
Another criticism is about,
Existence.
is it really a perfection?
Like, is that essential to being God?
That's the debate.
Maybe there are other ways
To explain infinity.
without God directly doing it.
Maybe our minds are capable of it.
Okay, so Descartes might not be perfect.
Not airtight, but...
He still got people thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Even his critics.
They had to admit
He raised big questions.
important ones.
And that's part of why...
He's still relevant
Exactly. He made us think critically.
about knowledge.
Yes. Don't just accept things blindly.
Question assumptions.
Demand evidence.
Especially today.
With all the information overload.
Yeah, Descartes helps us navigate that.
He gives us a
A
framework.
framework for,
Thinking about knowledge.
even if
God might not be the answer.
the method of doubt.
Yes. That's still valuable.
It makes us skeptical.
In a good way.
You don't just believe anything.
It's about being discerning.
Okay, I like that word.
It's about looking for clear and distinct ideas.
In a world of opinions and spin,
Exactly. We need to be able to.
separate fact from fiction.
It's crucial.
And sometimes I catch myself
Doing what?
just believing things.
Because
They feel good.
they align with...
My beliefs.
We all do it.
It's comfortable.
But Descartes reminds us,
Yeah.
true knowledge,
It takes more than
gut feelings,
or blind faith.
we need to examine our beliefs.
And be ready to change our minds.
If the evidence says so,
Even if it's uncomfortable.
that's intellectual honesty.
That's what Descartes was all about.
Absolutely. He empowers us
To what?
to take ownership of our knowledge.
Instead of relying on,
Authorities.
we can figure things out ourselves.
We have the power of reason.
Wow, that's a powerful idea.
It's about becoming,
Active learners.
yes, not just passive consumers.
But how do we do that?
With all the distractions.
Yeah.
It starts with knowing ourselves.
Knowing what?
Our own biases.
So self-awareness.
Is cruel. What else can we do?
Diversify our sources.
Don't just read one website,
Exactly. Seek out different views.
even ones we disagree with.
That can be tough.
Especially with echo chambers.
Everyone's in their own bubble.
But it's important to break out.
It helps us refine our thinking.
And finally,
Don't be afraid to.
ask questions.
Yes, curiosity is key.
If something's not clear,
Dig deeper.
demand clarification.
Exactly. Critical thinking isn't about
Being cynical.
or distrusting everything.
It's about thinking carefully
engaging with information.
in a thoughtful way.
That's what Descartes was all about.
It's mind-blowing
Is it?
how a philosopher from, like,
Way back when.
the 1600s
Yeah.
still sparks
Debate. Controversy even.
We've gone deep
Dive, right.
into Descartes' ideas.
Doubt. God. Certainty.
The whole shebang.
It's a lot.
And what's amazing is
What?
even
They
if-
don't agree with everything.
Yeah.
His core message
About...
about...
That's more relevant than ever,
Couldn't agree more.
especially today.
Information overload.
It's easy to
Gets swept away.
feel loss.
Drowning in data.
Exactly. So how can we
what?
apply Descartes' insights
To our lives.
to navigating this?
Crazy information landscape.
Yeah,
Well, I think Descartes gives us
that's one.
a framework for thinking about knowledge.
Even if
About stuff.
is up for debate.
Yeah.
His method,
Epistematic doubt.
that's still useful. It encourages
Encourages what?
skepticism.
Healthy skepticism.
Don't just accept things.
At face value.
Question everything.
Demand evidence.
Right. And that ties into
It's
clear and distinct ideas.
in a world full of
Misinformation.
disinformation,
Let's-
we need to be able to spot,
The truth,
or at least
facts versus opinions
it's so easy to fall into the trap
of believing things
that just feel right.
that fit our worldview.
Our preconceived notions.
Yeah.
But Descartes reminds us
What does he remind us?
that real knowledge,
It takes effort
more than just gut feelings,
or blind faith.
we have to be willing to,
Examine our beliefs
and maybe even,
when the evidence demands it.
that's tough.
It can be
But this is also,
liberating.
how so,
It's about taking control.
of our own knowledge.
Yes, we don't have to rely on
Authorities.
to tell us what's true.
We can figure it out ourselves.
No,
Reason.
critical thinking.
Like Descartes taught us.
Well, he nudged us in the right direction.
So we're not just...
Passive consumers.
We become
Objective seekers.
of truth.
That's the goal.
But how do we even begin?
With all the noise, all the distractions. It starts with
Awareness.
our biases.
How they influence us? What else?
Diversify our sources.
Don't just stick to
One news channel.
one website.
Get out of those echo chambers.
Expose ourselves to,
FM perspectives.
even if they make us uncomfortable.
That's where growth happens.
And finally,
Yeah.
ask questions.
Don't be afraid.
To be curious.
If something seems fishy,
Dig deeper.
demand answers.
That's what it means to be.
A critical thinker.
It's not about being
Cynical?
or rejecting everything.
It's about engaging
thoughtfully,
and forming our own conclusions.
here's on reason,
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of...
Skepticism
That's the legacy.
of Descartes. He didn't have all the answers.
And he gave us to find them ourselves.
And that's pretty powerful.
Well said.
So we've reached the end
Of our deep dive.
into Descartes.
Hopefully,
You've learned something.
maybe even...
Questioned some assumptions.
That's what it's all about.
Keep those minds sharp.
And those questions coming.
Until next time.
Happy philosophizing.